All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Tony Bruno. I am here with John Somnes, Bulldog Mindset. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Tell everybody about yourself and tell everybody about Bulldog Mindset. From what it looks like, you're I guess, a dating coach, a lifestyle guru and fitness guru, and an entrepreneur. So kind of like a lifestyle coach, would you call yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, my main focus is really two things, and they're very related. One of them is getting rid of the victim mindset, and specifically teaching men to get rid of this victim mindset that so many people have so they can be successful in life. And then the second one, which, again, like I said, is really related, is because it's part of it, which is being a man, like how to be a man, how to be a masculine man, like masculinity. And so the other elements that you talked about, they really come into that, right? Because I feel like in order to be a man, you need to have a certain level of physical fitness, of physicality, right, to work on yourself in that aspect, even if it's just for the mental discipline. And then you need to have the financial means to learn how to build a business if that's what you want to do, or to be successful financially. And then also the dating and relationship. You need to know how to handle women, how to get women if you want women, and how to interact with them and keep those relationships going, or the direction that you want them to be going. So
Now I see that first I want to talk about his physical fitness, because that's the first thing that popped out. And I'm like, wow, this guy is jacked. He's definitely has his shit together. I mean, you can see that you work hard. And that's not something that, from what I understand, came, I don't want to say easy to you, but it didn't come easy to you. You worked at it. So tell me
yeah,
about your physical fitness, basically, plan for somebody, and tell me about your plan that you did for yourself.
yeah. I mean, we could start with I can show you my before picture if you'd like. I can share my screen here, and then I
Sure.
think that was probably a good
Sure.
let's see here. Okay, so here's some before pictures.
Oh, I can do that there. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, so this is before picture. This was me. It really was me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah.
incredible. Do
So
you have pictures of you now so you can compare them? Show us. Because I've seen
let's
a
see.
lot of
Yeah.
pictures of you.
Yeah. So here's kind of like more recent. I guess this is the one that I posted today.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And,
How
yeah,
old
and
are you,
so
John?
that's I just turned 40. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that's I mean,
That's a transformation right there. That should show a lot of guys that what you can change yourself if you have the mindset, the bulldog mindset.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And what happened with me was, I got to a point where I had to buy like a size 46 pants, as you can see in that picture. And that was the point where I could no longer deny it, that I was definitely fat, I was overweight. And, and I just decided that, hey, I'm going to change my life. I don't want this. Like, I had all these aspirations of what my life would be like. And I realized at that point that it's not just going to happen. Right. And so I made the turnaround, and what I started doing was, it was real simple actually at that point when I was trying to lose the weight, is I just said, all right, every 2 weeks I need to lose 5 pounds. And I just ate ate low calorie foods. Basically, I didn't have like a super detailed plan, and I ran. And then I said every pound over the 5, like, that I hadn't reached every 2 weeks, I would run that many miles every day until I reached that. And so I never had to run any penalty miles. I was so afraid of running the miles. So that got me down. And then, and then I started lifting weights again. I had lifted before, when I was younger, and I got that muscle back and got really strict with the diet and nutrition. And I made, some pretty good advancements there. I started eating 1 meal a day. I did that for like about 5 years.
Wow.
And I saw some really big benefits from that. And then, in the last 4 years, I became a marathon runner. So I've been running, I run a bunch of marathons. And then this year I'm actually right here. The reason why I don't have my normal setup is I'm in Flagstaff right now, and I'm training for a 100-mile race. So it actually got canceled. So when I go back to San Diego, I'm going to be just running it solo, 100 miles, and yeah. So doing my
Yeah,
goal for this year was to be an ultra. Yeah.
I saw that you're going to go ahead and do it anyways for yourself. You know, I think that's awesome. Do you think competition is important with men, whether it's men competing together or competing against yourself and your limits?
Yeah, I mean, definitely both are important, right? It's like, I mean, primarily we have to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday, right?
Hmm.
As men, because that's primarily we need to be competing with ourselves and comparing ourselves not to other people, because you could compare yourself to other men and you're always going to fall short in some area, and that's not what you need to be concentrating on. Is what you can do with what you have and becoming the best version of yourself as possible, and that means that you're better than you were yesterday. But as far as like competition between men, I think it's important, but to have the healthy competition, right?
Hmm.
Where I compete with you, but I respect you at the end of the day. We respect each other, right? We
Hmm.
recognize the lion, the warrior in the other man, and we salute that. You know, on the battlefield we fight it out, but we salute that warrior. We have respect for that masculinity within us. I think that's really important because that brings out the best in us, right? When we're going against someone else, when we're, you know, performing on the battlefield essentially of life, that it brings out that lion that's within us all.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, when I was your age, I'm 57 right now. When I was your age, at 40, I picked up martial arts.
Mm.
Okay. And my discipline, main discipline was judo. Now, at that age, a lot of people say, oh, you know, you can't do that. But I competed at probably some of the highest levels in that sport. And I find myself still competing, whether I'm surfing across the street,
Mm.
you know, surfing with the boys, you're wanting to get the biggest wave. I don't care if when we go to the range, when you're shooting, you want the best shots. Always competition, but I think it's very healthy. I mean, combat sports at all? Any type of combat sports, kickboxing or anything like that?
I did some martial arts growing up, and then recently I did Muay Thai for a couple of years, which was great. I really enjoyed that. I ended up stopped doing Muay Thai. I had like I got my ribs broken, and then I ran a marathon afterwards,
Okay.
and I realized that like uh, the two weren't really going together too well. Also, the amount of time they have to train for marathons and ultra marathons, so I gave it up for now, but I definitely want to get back into it. I really liked doing Muay Thai. So
Yeah, injuries can be, I mean, I had a kind of a, I don't want to say it's a life altering injury, but I was training for a huge competition. I had just done really well in two big competitions. And I shattered my collarbone. So I have screws and basically a steel collarbone. So the competition
yeah,
still was awesome to me. I mean, it was something, again, that I've done, you know, for about 15 years. And it's been about a
yeah.
year or so since I've been on the mat. But yeah, I think it's very healthy competition between men. Um, let's also talk about your financial coaching and your entrepreneurship. Tell me how you take a guy that's, you know, not doing well, and again, your name is Bulldog Mindset. All that ties in, I'm sure. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, initially, like you said, like a lot of it comes down to like figuring out if there's a problem mindset wise. A lot of the guys that end up taking coaching from me, they're guys that have been following me for a while, so they probably have already got a lot of the mindset piece of it, but then they still need the instruction in how to actually execute on the ground here, right? And so what I do a lot of times, I mean, I look and I try to figure out, okay, what is it that you actually want, right? Because there's a lot of different options.
Hmm.
It's not just about making money, right? It's like, because one guy, you know, I could talk to him and he could say, oh, you know what? If I could just have $2,000 a month of passive income, didn't have to work anymore for anyone else, and I could live in Thailand, I'd be happy. I would never need to make any more money than that. But
Hmm.
I just want to quit my job as soon as possible, right? But another guy could say, no, I have aspirations of having a mansion and having nice cars and building up, you know, extreme amount of wealth. And the path to both of those things is going to be very different, right? Because one of them is going to take a lot longer and it's going to take a lot more work. The other one is not as difficult. and it may cap you so that if you decide to like retire in Thailand for $2,000 a month, you're not going to be able to really expand as much beyond that. So what I usually look at is we end up usually working on a couple things. One is, okay, where you're at right now, let's find some low hanging fruit. I can usually get a guy that I'm coaching a raise, you know, a 10 to 15% raise just right off the bat, just because most guys don't know how to negotiate, and they didn't even negotiate their first job offer. They didn't negotiate their raises. I give them a little bit of skill to do that, and then, you know, that basically pays for my fee right there. And then the other thing, that next thing that I usually focus on is, okay, let's build you an actual business so you can have some passive income, that you have actual income or increase your income coming in. It's not really passive when it's a business in my mind. But and then the third thing that I focus on is doing real estate investment. That's what really I did, which made me successful and be able to kind of retire at a young age. And what I try to do is what I call, there's this concept I call the well that never runs dry. So basically, most people, what they do is they take their paycheck, okay, or the money they make from their business, and then they spend it on their expenses, and then whatever left over they save and invest. The problem with doing that is that you are always having to generate more income in order to live, right? So what I do, and what I help a lot of guys do, is to generate what I call the well that never runs dry, which is basically to say, okay, we're going to take all the income that you're making, okay, and it takes a while. You can't do this right away, but essentially the model is you take the income you're making from your job, or if you're in business or whatever, you invest all of that, 100% of it. So my vehicle of choice is real estate. I think that's the best investment by far. And then you live off of the passive income that's generated from that well, right? And every month, every time you're adding to that, you're digging the well deeper, and so you're living, your budget essentially increases, so your lifestyle gets to increase, but every month that well is replenished, because that is money you don't have to work for. And so the goal is really to get to that point, and that's how I live my life. A lot of really successful, financially successful men that I know, they essentially do some variation of that. They don't really call it what I call it, but I noticed that pattern, and that's the pattern that I also adopted. But the nice thing about it is, like I said, is that you can basically spend that money. You can know what your lifestyle is going to be, and it increases over time.
Do you find that when somebody starts making more money, they're automatically inclined to buy a bigger house, buy a nicer car, and kind of defeat the purpose of what they're actually doing?
Yeah, and you know, when I was younger, I had that same mindset. I remember getting a raise at my job, and it was like something like $400 a month. And then I thought, oh, I can afford $400 a month more of payments. That's how I thought back then. And I thought, oh, well, I could get a car that's, you know, $200 more a month, and rent an apartment that's, or, you know, or get this, whatever it is, pay for the cell phone bill, or whatever. And that's like the completely wrong way of thinking, because see, the thing is, like, there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. And I mean, you can make a lot of money and you could technically be rich, because there's a lot of NBA players and movie stars and whatnot that are rich, but they're not wealthy because they go broke. Like, if you can go broke, you're not wealthy. And the difference is whether you have to work for the money or not, right? And so that's the key thing. Is it's like, if you take the money that you're making and you make more money, and then you spend more money, you have a higher lifestyle, but you're having to work for that money, you're just showboating. It's not real, because you're having to generate that money every month, right? You don't have true wealth. You have true wealth when you don't have to work for the money, when the money is working for you, and that's coming in, you know, every month. That's the key. And so that's why it's so wrong to do that. It's because it's like, you know, you don't really own it. You don't really own that stream of income. You're just kind of, you're getting it right now, but there's no guarantee that you're going to continue to make that money in the future. And so if you're getting things that require that debt, or that are require payment, but you don't have any direct, like, you can't guarantee that you're going to get the money to pay for it in the future, you're setting yourself up for a very bad situation.
I mean, I remember the day I paid my house off. And real estate, you know, it's something that I wish I got more involved in when I was younger, because I look at what I paid for my house, you know, 27 years ago, and what it's worth now, you know, a block from the beach. So how do you coach a guy into making those right choices? In other words, saying, okay, you're going to invest in this, and you have a specific plan where you're going to hang on to this property for 20 years, 30 years.
So my default, right, and again, it depends on the situation and what you're trying to do, right? And actually, like, to back up a little bit, this is something that I always teach, is that net worth can be converted to cash flow. And so for younger guys, when I'm coaching them, my focus is getting their net worth up as much as possible, because we can always convert it to cash flow later. You're making money, you got a good job, whatever. Let's just increase your net worth. So we're going to still invest in real estate, but we're going to invest leveraged, right? We're going to invest where we're going to put as little money as down as possible and have as much money that we can borrow from the bank, because that leverage appreciation is really going to build up your net worth over time. Now, your cash flow is going to be zero or maybe even slightly negative. So you're not going to be putting money in your pocket every month, but you're going to be putting money in the bank for the long term, essentially, right? And then later on, when you get to the point, maybe you're like, this is a guy in his 20s, and we're getting this plan. And so what I'm having him do is buy a house every year, where he's putting 10 or 20% down on that property, and it's a break-even cash flow situation, right? The rent covers the mortgage and the expenses. So every year he's buying another house, buying another house, buying another house. Maybe it's a duplex or a fourplex if he's making more money, right? And then at some point, maybe he's like 30, 35, whatever, 40, and he says, okay, I want to retire now. I'm done working for the man, right? Now we can just take all of that real estate, and we can exchange that. We can do like a 1031 exchange, or there's a couple different options, and we can now convert that into cash flow by either paying off the property or taking the equity from those properties and exchanging it for another property where there's not going to be debt on that, and now you can get that cash flow, and you can live off of that. So it kind of depends on where you're at. If you're already further on in life and you don't have as much time to develop that net worth, then maybe it makes more sense to buy properties with 50% down payment where you're going to get cash flow, or even 100% down payment where you're just buying things straight up, and then you're going to get that cash flow if you want to be able to retire and have that passive income on it. But in general, my strategy for real estate investment is buy and hold, right? It's deferred gratification. We're looking for the long term, because in the long term, assets are going to increase in value, and you're going to do well in real estate. In the short term, you could get burned. Things can go up and down. But if you're holding onto a property for 15 years, it's pretty much going to be a good investment. I don't know of any property that I've ever invested in that I've held for 15 years, or that anyone I know of, that hasn't turned out to be a good deal after that period of time. So,
do you help a guy, say, with bad credit? Can you coach a guy from a bad credit score, or someone who has no credit?
I could. I haven't encountered that very often, because with the kind of fees that I charge, I'm usually working with someone who either has a pretty good six-figure job, or is running a business, maybe a 6 to 7 figure business. So I usually don't encounter that too much. I mean, in that case, I think the best things to do, like if you have no credit, obviously, you can do some things like, opening up lines of credit, like getting a car payment and just paying it off, or a credit card that you're paying off every month, which pretty much anyone should be doing anyway. You should have a credit card that has a bonus cashback or whatever, and paying it off every month, because it's just free money sitting out there. As far as bad credit, I mean, personally, what I would probably do is, because I know there's a lot of guys that I've worked with in the past that do credit repair. So I would probably just refer them to something like that and say, okay, get the credit fixed first, and then come back to me, because that's not my expertise.
Okay, gotcha. Now, another big part of what you do, of course, is a dating coach. Now, this is a big deal, and dating coaches in the manosphere, and I do like that word, and I'm going to use it. So, dating coaches in the manosphere. I've talked with probably, I think you're the sixth one in the past month or so. And everybody has a different philosophy, but it seems to be the same end goal. So talk to me about, like, a guy that is really not doing well with women. And another question, is it different when you coach a guy that's 20 years old or a guy that's 50 years old?
That's a good question. So I'll start off with the second one. I don't think there's a huge difference in terms of what is attractive to women. The general advice I would give someone who's younger, like so say 20 versus someone's 50, is for guys that are 20, I'm really telling them, look, here's the deal. You're not going to get the hottest 20-year-old girls that you want right now because you're just not a high enough value man, right? They're looking for older men, to be honest with you. Okay. And so what I tell these guys is, look, learn to overcome your social anxiety, like to learn some game, to be able to talk to women. Don't get into a long-term relationship at all, right? And don't spend too much time going out every weekend and trying to like learn some basics, but be focused mostly on building your fitness and building your business, your money, and who you are as a man, like learning about yourself, becoming grounded as a man. Because when you get to your 30s, that's when your opportunity is. Maybe you're around 35, you're making good money, you know who you are, you're grounded as a man, you've got a good physique, right? Whereas other guys have let themselves go. Now you're in a place where, and you have the experience with women, so you have some game, you understand, you've been around the block a few times. Now you have your selection. Now those hot girls you couldn't get before, you can get those girls because you've got all those things going. Whereas someone who's, let's say, 50, I'm going to give them different advice because hey, they don't got that. They're already should be at that point of being established in their life. But you know, as far as like kind of that higher level advice. Now, as far as like the actual dating advice of game and where guys, you know, make mistakes and learning to attract or pick up women, what it comes down to, and I guess this is somewhat related, is my primary thing is status. I think that women are attracted to status more than anything else. And the way that I break down status is it's a combination of stuff. It is a combination of your looks for sure. It's a combination of that with your money, which represents your accomplishments and your drive in life, and also your social skills, right? Your ability to understand and read social situations and to be smooth, or, you know, whatever, you to have game, we could call it that. And so it's all those things combined. And so you want to raise your status as much as possible. So a lot of it begins just with the internal, right? It's like, let's make you a high value man so that you're not faking something, so that you kind of already know what to do. And then we still need to tweak some things because look, 90% of the guys that I coach, this is it. Their problem is that they're afraid that they can't go up to a girl that they're attracted to and talk to her. And so that's what I'm primarily getting them to do, is just to go do that, because a lot of the rest of the stuff will kind of solve itself. I mean, there's definitely pieces and tweaks and understanding logistics, and you know, if you want to pick up a girl from a bar and you want to bring her back with you, there's a lot of steps involved and stuff to know about how to do that and how to create that attraction and how to move things in a sexual direction. But most of the guys that are watching, they have never even just gone and talked to a girl that they don't know and shown some interest in her. They're terrified. And I know because I
Why
coach all
is
these
that?
guys.
Why is that, John? I mean, I speak, you know, and me and my brother have spoken about this a few times, and I remember when I first went to 21, like, all right, wow, a lot of this has to do with game and picking up women. And my brother and I have never had that issue. And I'm not sure if it's because how we grew up, whether it be from our father, or has things changed so much as far as social media and Bumble and Tinder. So what makes it hard for a guy to approach a woman?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a combination of factors, right? I think it's just one of those just intrinsic fears that most men have. Now, you know, obviously you said you and your brother didn't have it, but probably the reason why you don't have it is probably because you initially had done it and had some success, and that is kind of like a reinforcing, like, you know, that women are going to respond to you in a certain way, and so it kind of eliminates that fear very quickly in life. But most guys never actually face the fear, and so it becomes a deeper and deeper fear. Any fear that we let have a foothold in our life will take more and more of our life. And so most men have never stood up and faced that fear, and so, like I said, it grows and grows on them. And you know, it's hard to say. It's just something. I mean, I was afraid when I was growing up. I was so scared of women, I would not dare to talk to a girl and just approach her, just cold approach, and try to do any kind of pickup or anything like that, because it was, I don't know, it was just like an instinctual fear that I had, and I had to really push myself to get over it. And I think a lot of guys just don't, they don't push themselves, and part of it probably is, you know, I think one element is the internet, like the rampant pornography, right? Because if a guy, like, okay, if you don't have pornography as an option, then you're going to be more like more compelled to go out there and get what you need. Like, it's like, if your need is being met at a lower level, well, you know, it's not the best level it could be at, but it's being met. Unfortunately, it's kind of like, you know, if you just had dog food to eat and you're eating the food and you're like, it's not really good, but it's food, I'm okay, right? You're not starving, so you're not gonna like go out and kill something. Whereas if you're starving, you're gonna go out and hunt. You're gonna go and figure out how am I gonna get some food, right? And so I think that's what, like, a lot of guys are living on video games and porn, and so they're not going out there into the real world, and they're not getting enough of a need, of a hunger to like go and face that fear and conquer that fear. And so, yeah, I think that's the heart of it.
Now, approach anxiety, would you kind of say that also has to do with fear of rejection?
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't that
it's
a
sort of
big part of it?
it's sort of an irrational fear, though, because, you know, and you can go into like the psychology of it, like the caveman days. Like, if you got rejected, then, you know, you might be ostracized and then you can't survive on your own. Or like if you hit on the big caveman's girlfriend. Yeah, I understand like the psychology of that. I'm not like, I think there's probably some element of that within it, but you know, it definitely is an irrational fear for us today. Like, nothing bad will happen if a woman rejects you. I think also guys think in terms of, I always try to tell guys that rejection is a choice that you make, right? Like, no one can reject me. I can, I'm unrejectable, right? I go up, and if I talk to a girl and she's not interested, she gives me a hand or whatever, I'm just laughing it off. Maybe I'll even try again. Maybe I'll, whatever, because it's, I'm just dancing. I'm just having fun. I'm just here, you know, listen to the music. This is just part of my flow, and this is what I'm doing. And it's not a personal, it's not a rejection type of thing. But if you're going up and you're like, okay, this is the stakes. I got to get this girl's number. She's got to be interested in me. And then it's like, and now you're giving her the power to reject you or not. Like, you're making that choice, and you're saying, okay, if she gives me this reaction, then I am bad. I fail. Then you're essentially rejecting yourself, right? You have to make that choice, and I think that's probably where a lot of guys go wrong. And like, when I coach guys, one of the things that I tell them is that what our goal is for you talking to women is not to get a phone number, not to get laid, none of those things at first. Your goal is to make yourself go into an uncomfortable situation and to force yourself to get it. And you win if you get yourself into an uncomfortable situation, right? And you did it. You purposely put yourself into it, which is talking to the girl. So for them, in their mind, I context shifted so that now we're talking about winning. You win every time. Every time you go and talk to a girl, you win. That's a win, right? Because now we're shifting the game, because now it's not, the idea of rejection isn't there, because you can't be rejected, because you're automatically going to win just for putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. And that becomes the goal. And when that becomes the goal, then that can really help with that. It still is going to take some balls. You're still going to have some courage, but it makes it a lot easier, because now you don't have to fear the rejection, because the rejection, like, your goal is not to get her number or to make her appreciate or accept you. So.
Gotcha. Now, in the manosphere, again, we have, I think it's the rule of sixes: 6 figures, 6 foot tall, and 6-pack abs, I think is what it is. Now, when I heard that, and I'm like, fuck that, that's bullshit.
Right.
Because I'm
Yeah.
5'7", 166 pounds, and I got a bald head, and I didn't have an issue. So
right, exactly.
to me, again, it's a mindset. So I had one dating coach say to me, well, it's because, you know what, you might have talked to those 2 women, and those 2 women don't like a guy that's 5'7" with a shaved head, but there are women that will. So
women don't know what they want or what they like. if they'll tell you what they think they want, there's certain things that they'll swipe on in a Tinder app, but that's not real life, right? Real life is you being there in 3 dimensions and being yourself, like how you present yourself. And so it's sort of, again, a lot of guys, the black pill kind of incel kind of community, it's like, oh, it's all about looks. It's not all about looks. I have a friend of mine that, he is, okay, he's Indian. He is, I mean, he was born in India, like Indian. Okay. He's skinny. He's not super tall. Okay. And he kills it. Like he goes to, I mean, but he's super aggressive. I mean, he'll go out to a nightclub, he'll put his arm around a girl, he'll grab her hand, like he'll just like, that's how before he said a word to him, and they like it. Okay. He hardly, every once in a while he gets rejected from that, but because he's aggressive, because he's confident in himself and he presents himself and he knows how to talk and he's got game. And it's like, when I first saw him, I was like, that was the thing that made me a believer. I was like, holy crap, because I'm sitting there witnessing this guy, and he doesn't have the 666. He's not even close to any of those things, but he's able to do that. So again, there's like, do looks matter? Of course they do. Does being tall matter? Of course it does. But it's not like it's not the only factor. And it's not as big of a factor as many guys think. I think a lot of guys want to look at the way that they're attracted to women and think that women are attracted to men the same way. And it's just not true. It's so different. Women are going to judge you based on a lot more factors than just how you look. And that's, that's the key. So I think that's a pretty ridiculous myth. I've seen enough stuff to, and then a lot of guys also think, okay, well, if some guy's a Chad and he's 6'3" and whatever and ripped and stuff, that he's on easy mode and girls approach him, and I can tell you that that's not the case. Like, I mean, from sometimes you get a freebie or whatever, but it just doesn't work that way, because a woman will still reject it. In fact, if you're really good looking, real tall, whatever, you meet all those characteristics, she has a high standard for you. So when she talks to you, she expects you to be slick and to be good with women. And if you're stand there stuttering and apologizing, she's going to be really disappointed and she's going to lose that attraction for you. So yeah, I think it's kind of a ridiculous notion that has a little bit of truth to it.
Okay. Now also, I think I saw a video of you where you take guys out in the field, and I think it was in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me what you would do for a guy that you would take out to a nightclub in Vegas. How would you help him out personally right there?
Yeah. So the big thing that, in fact, I can give you like an example of a guy, before the pandemic thing, where everything got shut down, that we went out to Vegas. And so he actually started out, we did a little bit of Skype coaching as first, to get him go to bars and stuff where he was at. But then when we met up in Vegas, we're in my hotel room and he's like, I'm not going to do this, man. He's like, I can't, you go out and have a good time. I'm like, dude, you just paid me $2,000. Okay. You are going to do it. I'm going to make you do, like, there's no way you're not going to do this. Right. I'm like, listen, just follow my lead. Just take it one step at a time. Right. We're just going to take this one step at a time. We're going to purposely put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. Right. See, when you can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're like, okay, because that was one of his big hangups, is like, I just feel really uncomfortable. And I'm like, good. This is what life is about. It's about feeling uncomfortable. It's great. Your heart is beating. You know you're alive. This is like, I mean, do you want to have apathy, like to not feel anything? I love feeling fear. I love feeling uncomfortable. That's what we're after, right? So then, my approach is to make it so that feeling uncomfortable is not a bad thing. That's actually what we're after. So then you get excited when you feel uncomfortable, because that means something good is about to come. Because I'll tell you, the greatest feeling in life, higher than any high I've ever felt, is when I do something that scares the fuck out of me, and I do it anyway. And then, it's coming off that crest of the roller coaster. You're like, yes, right? You know what I mean? It's like, and that's it. And so when I feel that fear now, and I try to train the guys that I'm coaching, it's like, now I want you to feel that, excitement is coming. Like that should be anticipation, because when you do this thing, you're going to feel so good about it, right? And so that's kind of the beginning, is kind of getting the mindset right, because we got to have the right mindset. Then I go over kind of the basics, like, the basic stuff is like, okay, how to approach, how to open up a set, and what kind of conversation that you're going to have with them. You're going to kind of take things in sexual. And I try not to overwhelm at first, because I really just want to get them to just do it, to just open, right? And then, we go out usually, for example, if we're going to go to a nightclub, we're going to go around first around the casino, something like that. And I'm going to say, I'm going to demonstrate, right? I'll go up and I'll just be like, here, this girl, this girl, this girl. I'll just be like, look, see how I just do this? No problem. And I'm just talking. Group of girls, go in there, talk to them, right? And then after he's seen me do it a bunch of times, because a lot of the way that we learn is that we see someone else do something and we know it's possible, right? So many things in my life, I realized that I could do because I saw someone else do it. It's like, if that guy can do it, I can do it, right? And so that's what I want to get him. I want to get him to that point. And then I'm like, okay, now it's your turn. Now you do it, right? It's a natural, normal thing, right? He's seen it happen a bunch of times. And I was like, oh, okay. And then usually, there's a little bit of trepidation, but usually after a guy's seen me do that a bunch of times, then he's much more inclined. In fact, he's usually, I'm usually holding him back, because I'm like, oh yeah, like, it's not your turn yet. Like, I've got to finish, because I want him to be anticipating his shot at it, as opposed to, and the reason why I do this is because up until this point in his life, he's been dreading his turn, or that he has to do this. But now I want him to salivate and say, yes, I want to go and give my shot, right? And so, then I'm pushing him into opening. And then the goal is, I'm like, okay,
that's what I want to know was
the
goal. That's what I wanted to find out. Like,
yeah.
Is the end goal to get the number, to get her back to the hotel room? I mean, what's the end goal? You would want that genuine attraction from the woman to that guy, not just, okay.
Exactly.
So
so the end goal is usually for him to get the girl back to the hotel room, right? I mean, that's a number in Vegas is kind of, it's one of the most, it's worth less than a $5 chip. So then really what it becomes is like, okay, you want to get into the nightclub. Guess what? The nightclub, the fee is $100 unless you're on the guest list, and the guest list requires there to be a 1-to-1 even ratio. So how are we going to get in the nightclub? Well, I guess we're going to have to go and find some girls and convince them to come into the nightclub with us. And that's like kind of the, like, it's a confidence builder, because I know I can do it every time, and I give him a little help. And then now he's like, shit, I just got 2 girls, didn't know, got them to get in line with me and get into the nightclub with me. Now he's flying high, right? Even if I've done most of the work, he's there, he's part of it. One of those girls is coming in with him. So he's flying high. Then we get into the nightclub. And then that's where, it's like, now it's loud, now it's a harder environment. And now hopefully he's got enough confidence, and I'm going to push him in, going to demonstrate for him. If I can, maybe I'll do some opens and then bring him in and kind of, transfer some of the attraction over to him. If I can establish it with the girl, and kind of, I'm trying to get him to have a good night and to succeed. So, and sometimes it doesn't happen. Right. I mean, it's like, you can't guarantee, but a lot of times it does. Or maybe it's like the second night or third night when he starts to get comfortable, and then of course, you're getting numbers when things don't work out. And then, I'm having him text all those numbers at the end of the night, right? Make some of those Hail Marys, and just showing him basically this persistence. We don't stop, right? You have the goal in mind, and, there's a lot, again, little pieces to it, logistics, figuring out, asking the questions, who'd you come with, what are you doing after this, who are you here with, right? So he can understand what the logistics are in order to facilitate what he wants to happen. Right? Let's grab some food after this, set up a premise of what we're going to do afterwards, so that when you get to that point and you're ready to pull from the nightclub, that you've got a reason to do it. So, work on little things. And then I'm always looking to see, like, I can look at the guy and how he's interacting with the woman, and I know how it's going. I don't need to hear what he's saying, because I know, I look at her body language, I look at his body language, and I'm like, okay, she's into him or she's not into him. And, and then I'm going to have him come back and say, okay, what did you say? Let's debrief this real quick. Okay, what did she say? How did you feel things were going? And then give him a little bit of tweak, a little bit of pointer. Okay, change this, say this, approach this way, don't go from the side, whatever he needs in order to send him back out there, so that he'll, get to where he needs to go.
So you're teaching him escalation basically too, or he's kind of learning it along the way, because I think there's a lot of guys that are afraid to escalate. and don't
Yes.
understand when they're getting that signal to escalate. Now, I've learned a lot of different terms: escalation, keno escalation, which is
Right.
actually touching a woman. And I think you got to kind of be careful and be sure of yourself. And I think it's something that's probably learned or inherited, when you can put your hand on the small of her back or give her a
Yeah.
little pat on the ass or something like that, knowing you're not going to get your teeth punched out. So, how do you teach a guy to keep that escalation going?
So I kind of subscribe to the whole, like, if it's not a red light, it's a green light, right?
Hmm.
And again, it depends on the context and the situation. In a nightclub,
Hmm.
all right, as long as you're approaching confidently, you can get away with just your first thing, putting your arm around the girl. You can do it.
Hmm.
I do it plenty of times. I've seen plenty of guys do it. If you if you're hesitant, if it feels like a labored interaction, it's probably not going to go well, and maybe you shouldn't do that move. But it's you can literally go and make eye contact, what they call the hand of God, extend it, twirl around, and make out with the girl like that. It can be that quickly. So what I try to do, though, is just to have the guy do something that's uncomfortable, because I'd rather see him. It's like calibration, right? It's like,
Okay.
well, take this, right? For example, like finding my voice in writing or on YouTube. What I had to do in order to do that, I had to go to one extreme, and I had to back off and figure out where that boundary is, right? So I remember, making a YouTube video and be like, fuck this and fuck that, and like just swearing
Hmm.
and being kind of a dick. And then I realized, okay, that's not actually me, that's not my voice. But it was a lot more than the quiet John that was just, kind of trying to be super polite. It was somewhere I had to find that dynamic, right? And so it's the same thing here. It's like, I want the guy to see what's too far, okay, so that he knows. Because most guys, like, they think, okay, this is the boundary right here. Like, I can't do this, but it's really like way out here. And so I want them to go to keep on pushing to get to that boundary, so that they can feel where it's at,
Hmm.
and then they can back off from there. Because most of the time it's that they're not. Like, I'd rather just see them be aggressive, because again, if you do an inappropriate touch, again, and when I say inappropriate, I don't mean like in the wrong place. I mean at the wrong time. In the wrong place is
Hmm.
is not a good idea. But if you do at the wrong
Yeah.
time, she's going to let you know. She's going to back off. She's going to say, whoa. And then, you can kind of like give her some space and start having a conversation, say, oh, like, play it off, not a big deal. And then you can try again, right? Because, that is going to be a lot like your chance of being successful if you did the wrong move and then persisted, is a lot more than if you were just a super nice guy and you just talked about what she did for work and all this kind of stuff and
Hmm.
how the weather is, and you never touched her, and you're like, that's guaranteed no laid zone. You're not getting
Yeah.
laid for the no way, right? But if you do inappropriate things, you still have a chance. Again, not saying that you should necessarily, but you've got to find the balance. But I'd rather you fall on the side of being inappropriate in the sense that, like, touching too much or something like that, or going for the kiss when you shouldn't, rather than otherwise, because that's where you're going to calibrate and you're going to figure it out, and then you're going to get that natural feel for it eventually as you kind of misstep a little bit. There's just like no shortcut to it, because I can't have my brain go into the other guy's brain. He has to feel it, because it's an intuition type of thing, and he has to be in that. But so I have to push him to the point where he's going to get that experience, because if he just sits there and he's like, and I'm telling him, when you see this signal, and then he's being the nice guy and he's never actually taken a shot, he's never going to see it. He's not going to get the experience. I'd rather have him like blow up a bunch of times doing the wrong thing, going too far, because now he's going to get calibrated. Now he's actually going to get the intuition, because he's going to feel
Gotcha.
that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I mean, it kind of goes back to, if she's still talking to you, you're good. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Because she could
So
get out of there, right? So
yeah, oh yeah. So now we're in the time of pandemic
yeah.
and quarantine and self isolation. So do you help guys with dating apps? Because now, to
Yeah.
me, and I had talked with another dating coach, and he had said, I want to paraphrase him, but it's the, like Tinder and Bumble, it's the lowest barrier to entry, is
Mhm.
what he had said, and I think that's good. And he kind of called it, well, he called it low hanging fruit.
Mhm.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have always been very against dating apps. Like all of my coaching classes, I'm like, no, do not do it
Hmm.
at all. Just you're not learning how to be a man. You need to learn how to be a man. I'm trying to teach you how to be a man,
Hmm.
not just how to get laid. And maybe, yeah, you can get laid on a dating app, but I'm trying to teach you how to be a man. That means you need to go and face your fears and fucking cold approach and
Okay.
learn how to actually talk to women and learn how to do these things. But with everything going on, you know, I have realized that, look, it's really, really difficult and probably not productive to try and go out and do cold approach right now. It's just, I mean,
Hmm.
sure, you could do it if you really want to, but let's not swim up against the wrong way up the river. When the river is going
Hmm.
this way, there's no point in so I've had to like kind of change my stance for at least for now, right?
Okay.
And help guys with dating apps. And
Yeah.
it's really, I think, I don't like it because it's super. It just dating apps destroy guys' confidence. They really do,
Hmm.
and it's a shame because
Why do
it's
you
one
why do you
dimensional.
say
It's
that?
just
Okay. Why do you
because
say it
90
just?
because okay because the average guy is going to do horribly bad on a dating app, right? If you're not in the top 5% of guys, you're going to really do poor. Like you might not even get any matches for days, or very low quality matches. Now, it doesn't mean there's nothing that we can do about it, but like in
Hmm.
general, without any training, if you just average guy just jumps on a dating app, he's competing with the top five. Like all these women are going to swipe on the top. They have a very high standard for
Hmm.
men, that because they have access to those men. So the key, what I found is that like you have to, like if I pick pictures that I think are going to be my best pictures, they're not. They're not,
Hmm.
because believe me, I tested it. I use a site called Photo Feeler. Okay, and I was like, okay, what are my best pictures? And so I was like, oh yeah, like the picture I showed you on Instagram. It's like, look at me with
Hmm.
my 6-pack abs, right? Like shirtless. Like that's got to be the best picture. I mean, it can't. That's like a magazine cover picture, right? Like that's got to be it, right? And then I've got some other pictures, a couple other shirtless pictures. Like this one's good too. And then a picture of me smiling, eating some food, and like what I mean.
Hmm.
And I use this app to rate them, and it's not like the shirtless 6-pack ab picture does bad. It does good.
Hmm.
It does good. But what beats it out, surprisingly, is the smiling picture of me
Yeah.
eating food. It's like, wow, that's insane. Like you would not believe that. Like because it rates it on attractiveness, on trustworthiness, and intelligence, and it's like it actually outranks the attractiveness on the shirtless picture, but it destroys the
Oh
trustworthy
wow.
and intelligence, right? So, so what you have to do, and also not only that, but it's selecting the right pictures, right? Which you need to actually do some objective rating to figure that out. But it's also setting them up and doing some tweaks to the pictures, right? Because again, I test this like, okay, well, what happens if I hire a professional photo editor to do some minor edits, minor like brush ups and things on the photo and lighting and improve, basically a photo retoucher. Okay, so I hire a photo retoucher, and then I do the experiment again, and bam, the photo retouching makes a huge difference. A huge difference. Like you wouldn't believe how much of a difference. So it's like these little tweaks. And so if you do all these little tweaks and now you put your pictures on there and now you have the right pictures on there, now all of a sudden your results are going to be like 10x. Okay. Even the bio, you can tweak the bio. Bio doesn't even matter. The pictures are what
So you
matter,
don't think
and
that
having the right
the
pictures.
bio makes a difference at all?
The bio is good for setting up the conversation that you're going to have afterwards,
Okay.
right? When you connect, because it gives you something interesting to say, right? If you say something like, I'm the guy your mother warned you about, right? For something like that, right? Then if a girl
Hmm.
matches you, you can say, hey, why I guess your mother didn't warn you about me, or you can make some kind of comment about that, and you've already moved into sexual direction immediately, which is good. So
Okay.
you kind of use the bio for something like that. But and again, you could look at the experiments. I mean, the black pill guys love to experiment on Tinder and show how like a serial killer or like child pornographer, like in the bio, it doesn't matter if the guy's like got a perfect jawline and 6-pack abs. And to some degree, they're right. girls aren't going to pay attention to that part when matching, you know, if you're hot enough guy. So that's why like the pictures are the most important thing. You know, the bio, the biggest thing is like, just don't make the bio something that's going to make you look like a nice guy. That's the biggest thing. So
yeah, I mean, on mine that I've had other guys say, "Can I use that like word for word?" And I'm like, "Sure." It tends to trigger. Now I've had hate on that come back, but I've also had, so the bio to me was kind of important, you know. And again, but to me, the online dating is just, it's just something, I think, with this pandemic and, you know, all the bullshit that's going on, it's probably an option for guys. But I'm glad you're evolving and telling guys what to do and researched it. Now, also, I have another question. In the manosphere, entrance to the manosphere for a lot of guys is trauma. Do you help guys deal with trauma, whether it's a divorce, you know, a breakup or whatever?
yeah, for sure. I mean, and the biggest thing that I try to help them deal with trauma is because you have to have a strategy for preventing the trauma from happening or from affecting you, right? And that requires emotional mastery, right? Men are not supposed to let their emotions master them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the biggest thing that I teach, and this is, I think, one of the problems that's wrong with a lot of the dating advice and a lot of the guys and pickup and stuff. No offense, I've got a lot of friends in there, and you know, they give great advice on getting laid, but guys are afraid. They think that alpha males don't fall in love,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the thing, like it's like a very blue pill concept, like this idea of falling in love or whatever, having a connection, you know, just the pump and dump, just pump and dump. So here's the deal. Okay, the problem is not the depth of emotion and falling in love. The problem is attachment. See, if you can be detached as a man, then you can experience a deep connection with a woman, even the woman that you just met and you just spend one night with. You can have a very deep connection with her if you're willing to let her go the next day, because you don't have the attachment, right? So guys that don't learn to let go or to form non-attachment, what they do is instead they guard their selves, so they don't actually form deep connections. And so they pick up girls, they fuck this girl, they fuck that girl, they feel nothing. Okay, and they become numb, and they're like, why isn't this actually working? Why don't I actually feel like I'm actually doing something? And they keep on trying to get that feeling, get that high, which they can't get because they're not developing a connection. So you know, coming back around full circle here, what this comes down to is, like, I think the most important attribute that you can learn, that I try to help guys with, is non-attachment, right? Is this ability, it's like, I call it, feel the pain, keep on walking, right? That's where you say, hey, life is pain. That's okay. There's pain in life. There's love in life. I want to feel the full spectrum of human emotion. I don't, now when I say feel, it doesn't mean express, right? Because there's a big difference. Like, mastering your emotion as a man means that you feel the things. We're human, we feel things, but we don't let our emotions dictate our actions. And so I try to teach them, hey, look, kind of a very stoic approach. Stoicism is a lot of the bulldog mindset, but this idea of, like, okay, look, you feel these things, you don't let your feelings influence your actions, but you also are able to detach in the sense that you're still feeling and experiencing life, but you're willing to let anything go in life. And that is, you consider everything in life to be not yours. It's borrowed, right? Even the atoms that make up your body will eventually go to the ground. They're not yours. They don't belong to you. Everything in your life will eventually disappear. And when you have that sense and you understand that and you internalize that, you don't feel loss anymore, because everything is borrowed. It's your chance. It's more of a feeling of gratitude. And so, you know, that fixes the negative emotions and the traumatic experience, because every time we have a traumatic experience in life, every negative emotion we experience is always because of one thing. It's an expectation that is not met. And so why do we have expectations on the world and other people? It's a ridiculous thing. I can't control the weather. I can't control what other people do. I can't control what a woman thinks or does or how she acts. So having an expectation on her action is a failure on my part. So I have to let go of all those expectations. And when I let go of those expectations, I'm not going to be sad or upset or disappointed or angry or any of those things because I don't have an expectation. I'm just accepting reality as it is. It might not go the way that I want it to, and I might be temporarily upset about it, but I'm not going to be bitter and angry and feel like I got betrayed or stabbed in the back. And now I have this ability to process these things, and I'm protecting myself for the future. So that's what I really try to help guys to do, rather than just dealing with that one issue, that one breakup or thing like that. Because when you have that mindset, now you're kind of invincible, right? I want you to be invincible so that nothing can harm you. Things may hurt you, but they can't harm you, because pain is something that's unavoidable, but suffering is always a choice. And you don't have to suffer. You only suffer when you fail to accept reality. If you are willing to accept what has happened and to fully say, okay, it's okay, then you won't suffer. You may experience pain, but you don't have to suffer.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, so that guy who can be, we'll call it indifference, 1 foot out the door and not feel the pain, but don't exclude yourself from actually enjoying parts of it also. I mean, I would imagine, you coach guys in relationships also. So go ahead and enjoy that. But if it ends, be able to walk. I mean, that
Exactly.
seems to be what you're saying. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, that's
It's like
awesome.
having a
That's a
butterfly in
great
your
way to
hand.
put it.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. So also, you're going to be speaking at the 21 convention. So do you have anything planned? And I mean, what is your, let's put it this way. What is your focus of your speech going to be?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about this. I'm not sure yet. I feel like it's going to come to me. I've got a couple of ideas, like what I just told you about, like opening yourself and actually loving as an alpha male. I think that's one possibility, because I feel like it's not said, and guys shy away from that because they don't understand detachment. So I think that could be a potential. I've toyed with the idea of just, the default would be to just talk about what is the bulldog mindset and how to develop the bulldog mindset. And then, yeah, I think there's a few other kind of elements that I'm considering, but I kind of want to feel like what is the thing that's kind of being pressed upon me to share the most. And yeah, probably in the next week or two, I'll probably figure that out. So
Okay. Yeah, you're sharing the stage with some big hitters. And I
yeah.
think you've met Elliot Hulse before,
Hmm.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
You've
we're
met
friends.
Elliot.
Yeah.
Have you met any other guys? Okay. Any of the other guys have you met in person?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Let's see, who else would be up there that yeah, I don't think so. I think Elliot Hulse might be the only one that I've met in person. I've talked to Jack Donovan a lot before, but
Okay.
but he's not. I guess he's not speaking this year though. He's just gonna be there. Is what I heard. So
Yeah, he might be doing a workshop, I think,
okay,
or something like that. I think Anthony is kind of pushing toward that. So,
Jesse
oh,
Lee Peterson.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I love Jesse. I can't wait to meet him myself. I listen to him quite frequently. So, and
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to meet you. I'm excited for this 21, which I think is going to be phenomenal. I mean, the lineup is great, just the amount of speakers, and I think you're
yeah,
really going to be impressed with the way everything is run. And I think you're a great addition to the 21 team and the 21 speaker roster. I think it's going to be really good. I was excited when I heard you were coming. I think that's a great step for you, and a great step for, especially for the guys that you're going to reach out to. And to me, that's the end goal of what you do, and what a lot of guys, whether, a lot of guys clash heads in the whole manosphere, let's face it. But,
yeah, yeah.
the end goal to me is what's most important. I don't get involved in any of the drama crap, but the
Me
end
either.
goal
Yep.
to me is helping men, becoming a better version of yourself. I don't care if you're 17 or 67. I think that's the most important thing. Being the best you can be, so. But
Yeah.
I appreciate your
Yeah.
time, John. And, and a lot of guys are going to get some value out of this talk. And I look forward to meeting you here in about a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Yeah. And I just got to say
Any
real quick
last
that
words?
I'm oh, yeah. So it's kind of chopping up a little bit, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'm in total agreement with you as far as the drama and whatnot. I don't want to get involved in any of those things, and my goal is to help men. And so, you know, actually when I took the invite to speak here, some people were upset with me, some guys that I know that are in the manosphere, and then a lot of my audience was upset with me. And you know, the thing is, like, I don't have a faction. I don't have a side. I don't belong, like, I belong to me
Good.
and my mission to help men. And I think that, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. And I extend this invitation, you know, just because this is going public, to any man out there, regardless if you're MGTOW or black pill or any kind of whatever, it doesn't matter what you are. You know, you come to San Diego, you want to get a beer, I'll have a beer with you. I got no animosity towards anyone. I just want to help men as much as possible. And, you know, I'm going to attack ideas that I feel are destructive towards men, but it's not a personal thing, right? I want to see all men succeed and to live better lives. And I think that you do too. And that's the thing that's really impressed me so far with the guys that I've talked to at the 21 convention, after talking to Steve Williams and your brother George and yourself. It's like, I see the spirit of, hey, we're not here to fight. We're not here to call names. We don't have any bitterness within our hearts, right? We're not angry at women. We just want to help men and help them as much as possible. And so I really appreciate that.
Again, too many factions of the manosphere are constantly punching back and forth, and so many friggin' labels, whether it be black pill, blue pill. Well, he's blue pill. Well, he's not blue pill. He's purple pill. Well, he's not a purple pill. He's a MGTOW. You know, and it's like, all right, well, which label are you going to throw on this guy? You know, so it gets a little tiresome, you know, but
It does.
Again, the end goal is to help men. And I think if everybody tends to, you know, look toward that end goal and, you know, knock off the knocking this guy, knocking that guy, I think we're all going to be better off, you know.
I agree.
So, and I think you're on the same page for sure. John, how can everybody find you?
Best place is just go to bulldogmindset.com. And then when you go there, you will see a little pop-up that asks if you want to take the Bulldog quiz. Say yes, because you want to take the quiz, because you want to see what your score is. I'll give you a score from 0 to 100. Ask, I think, about 10 questions on everything from relationship to finance to fitness. And then if you need help raising your score, I'll send you some emails and send you some information, some YouTube videos and stuff like that. So you'll get into my world if you take the quiz. So.
Okay, that sounds great, man. John, I appreciate your time, and I will see you in October. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
And have a good evening.
Thanks a lot, Tony.